What's going on, everybody? Good late morning. We are going with Floating Head Brendan in this video because Floating Head Brendan is ridiculous and absurd. And we're going to be talking about something in this video today that is ridiculous and absurd. Or at the very least, the fact that I have to discuss it right now as a Seahawks fan is ridiculous and absurd. And also just plain not good, but Floating Head Brendan isn't not good. Floating Head Brendan is fine. But this is not good. The fact that we're having this conversation, having this talk on any level is not good. Yeah, we're talking a little bit about tanking here, and it's very strange that I, as a Seahawks fan, am here talking about this, but I see it. I see it out there. I see this unhealthy, toxic notion from Seahawks fans, like in the last few days, not months ago, not weeks ago, but literally in the last few days. Seahawks fans in my comments, in chat, in Facebook comments, on X, reply threads, and maybe some of it's facetious. I assume a little bit of it is, but I think a lot of it isn't. This talk of tanking, this talk of rooting for your team to lose, or the team intentionally losing games. And it's really weird that that's a conversation that anybody's entertaining right now. It seems pretty counterintuitive. The Seahawks have 3 games left in their 17-game season. They're 8-6. They are in second place in their division. They're out of first place by a tiebreaker. If they overcome that tiebreaker, they win the division and get a home playoff game. And somehow this is still a conversation. That's weird, right? That's something that would be hard to explain to an alien. But I see it. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about it for one video, and then hopefully I don't have to talk about it again. So let's talk about this for a little bit. Let's peel this back a little bit. There are a few things that I could say about tanking that should shut down the conversation very, very quickly. Like, for instance, the fact that the team is not going to try to lose games, so hoping for it is kind of pointless anyway. Like, even if every single Seahawks fan on the planet wanted the Seahawks to lose their upcoming game, the team is still going to try to win. They might still lose, but they don't care about our picks. They don't care about draft picks. They don't care about cleaning house. They don't care about bottoming out. They want to win, if for no other reason than for themselves, so that they can make themselves look better to other teams or the Seahawks next year when they're trying to get on another team. And same for coaches. Coaches don't want it on their resume that they lost a bunch of games. General managers don't want it on their resume that they lost a bunch of games. They'd much rather have those wins than slightly better picks. So let's push that to the side for a second. Let's also push aside for a second the fact that talking about tanking at this point in the season with a team with a winning record is really, really, really stupid. Like, it's one thing if you're talking about tanking for, like, the number 1 overall pick or a top 3 pick or something like that, where, yeah, you're much more likely to get a blue chipper. We're talking about tanking so you can get the 13th pick instead of the 17th pick. Is that moving mountains here? Is that saving this team? Is that bailing this team out? Are we going to go win a Super Bowl in the next couple years because we got the 13th pick instead of the 17th pick? Like, let's dismiss the silliness of that notion as well, because the difference in quality of a player in the NFL draft over the last, I'd say 50 or 60 years at 13 versus 17 is almost certainly negligible. You have to get up very high, higher than the Seahawks could possibly get at 8 wins, to make a real difference in your odds. Let's push all that to the side, because that alone could make up this conversation. Let's actually get to the big fundamental issue here. Tanking does not work in football. Or at the very least, it won't work in football. I guess we can't technically know for sure, because with the possible exception of a team like the Miami Dolphins 5 years ago, we don't see teams try it. But we've certainly seen teams lose. We've seen teams lose constantly. So that's basically tanking, right? That's tanking with fewer steps. That's tanking without the trying to lose, but it achieves the same thing. We see it all the time. Tanking doesn't work in football. It might work in basketball. I could see tanking work in basketball because LeBron James by himself makes you a decent team. You could be the worst team in basketball. You get the number one overall pick. You get LeBron. You're immediately a playoff contender. And once he's in his prime or approaching his prime, you're a finals contender. You're a championship contender, regardless of anything else on the team. Because basketball, you've only got like, what, 10 players playing? You've got 5 players on the court at any given time, right? You get LeBron James, yeah, tanking was worth it. You get Victor Wembanyama, tanking was worth it. Now, it doesn't always work. You might get Andrew Bogut, you might get Kwame Brown, but basketball, yeah, it can work. Maybe it can work in baseball. I wouldn't shut that down. I think that baseball, there is a little bit of legitimacy behind the idea of building up your farm system. Maybe. There's still a lot of players on a baseball team, but you know what there are more of than players on a baseball team? Players on a football team. There are 53 players. You getting the number one overall pick so you can get theoretically the best single player is not moving the needle in the way that people seem to think. And I think that this is one of the most toxic things in sports fandom right now. And I think it leads to a lot of the dissatisfaction and anger and sadness that fans experience. And the way I boil it down to is this all or nothing mentality as a fan, where you have your favorite team and you think that either your favorite team wins the championship or it's worthless. Either you win, in this case, the Super Bowl, or they may as well have canceled the season. That's what the mentality is to me when I hear this. I hear people talking about this 8-6 Seahawks team, that they're a decent team. Maybe they're not a great team yet. Maybe they're not there quite yet. But, you know, it's moving some things in the right direction. There are some promising signs. First-year head coach doing well. We got a lot of good young players on this team, but they're not good enough to win the Super Bowl probably this year. I think we can all agree that the Super Bowl's probably out of their grasp. So instead of just living with that and trying to live in the moment and appreciate the little wins along the way and hope that you can at least maybe make a playoff game or win a playoff game, it's just like, no, set it on fire. Just set it on fire for the 13th overall pick. I'd rather have the 13th overall pick than have some fun on my Sundays the rest of the way. I think that's why people end up so miserable rooting for their sports teams. It's all or nothing. It's like a baseball player who tries to hit a 500-foot home run or strike out every at bat. And maybe that can work a little bit in baseball, but as a fan, it's just going to make you resent the sport. It's just going to make you resent your team. And I can tell you right now, it's not a healthy way to look at anything. And it's a very unhealthy way of looking at things, all for something that we know doesn't really work. Like, on some level, I could understand if a team gets to the end of the season and they're like 2-13 and they're competing for the number one overall pick and they need to lose their last 2 games to get the number one overall pick. Okay, you're not really losing much if you root for the team to lose then. Again, the team isn't going to throw the game in all likelihood anyway, so you rooting for them to lose doesn't do anything, but I could understand the mentality. But even that, does that work? Like, let's look at the Cleveland Browns since they came back into the league. 25 years ago, the Browns have been in the league in their current form for 25 years. Number one overall pick in 99. That's where they start, right? They come back into the league, they automatically get the number one pick. They pick number 1. They pick number 3. They pick number 6. They pick number 3. They pick number 3. They pick number 7. Pick number 3. Pick number 6. Pick number 8. Pick number 1. Pick number 1. Pick number 4. Pick number 10 here. How many times is this team living in the top 10? How many times are they living in the top 5? They're picking in the top 5 way more than any other team. They end up with back-to-back number 1 overall picks when they come back into the league. They get back-to-back number 1 overall picks in 2017, 2018. They have 2 picks in the top 5 in 2018. They live in the top 10. They live in the top 5. What have the Browns done over the last 25 years? They have 1 playoff win, 0 appearances in the conference championship game, like 2 or 3 legitimately good seasons, and that's it. That's it. Like, the best player they've drafted, the best player they've had since they came into the league is probably Joe Thomas. He never played in a playoff game. He gave them 10 years of all-pro caliber play and then never even got to make the postseason. So, at some point, if tanking worked, this should have produced something, right? All this losing should have produced something. It never did. It produced 1 playoff win. And that 1 playoff win, why did they get it? What did they do to build that team that won the 1 playoff game? Yes, Myles Garrett helped. Yes, Baker Mayfield helped. Yes, Denzel Ward helped. But what else was on that team? One of the best offensive lines in football. Did they build that entire offensive line out of top 10 picks? No. They had a great running game that year. Nick Chubb, 2nd-round pick, and Kareem Hunt, who wasn't even a draft pick. They got him cheap out of free agency. Right? They nailed their head coaching hire with Stefanski, who won Coach of the Year that year. None of these things had anything to do with tanking. None of these things had anything to do with losing games. That's not what put them over the top. So, if you're a Browns fan, and I don't know if there are any Browns fans watching this video, but if you are, I mean, if you've been rooting for the team to lose and tank for the last 25 years, you can't be very happy with the results, right? You're looking at this and you're like, I rooted for a lot of losing, and I got nothing out of it except more losing. So, certainly didn't work here. Look at the New York Giants over the last, I think, 12 years. They won the Super Bowl 12 years ago, and since then, it's been a factory of sadness. And they've picked in the top 10 many times. Number 9, number 10, number 2, number 6, number 4, number 5, number 7, number 6. All that in a 12-year span. And what have the Giants done? They've won 1 playoff game. They've been, over that 12-year span, one of the worst teams in the NFL, as a big market, by the way, really sad. And what was behind their 1 decent season and 1 playoff win? What pushed that? Saquon Barkley, okay. Saquon Barkley was a part of that. I guess Daniel Jones was a part of that. But what made that team work? Having a really good coach, Brian Daboll? That had nothing to do with tanking or losing or getting high draft picks, right? That team actually had a pretty decent offensive line, partially because of Andrew Thomas, but also because of other things that they did beyond the first round of the draft, beyond the top 10, later rounds, hitting on day 3 picks. That's what you have to do to have some success in this league. You can hit on your top picks all you want to, because that's the thing. Some of these top picks that we're looking at in these videos are good. Like the Browns. Going back to the Browns real quick, Myles Garrett was a great pick. Denzel Ward was a really good pick. Like, some of these players can play. Alex Mack was a great pick. Joe Hayden was pretty decent. Now, some of them are really bad, but the point is, good, bad, indifferent, it's not moving the needle the way it would in basketball. If this was basketball, then the Browns would have gotten, instead of Myles Garrett, they would have gotten, like, Victor Wembanyama. And he probably would have single-handedly dragged that team to relevance, but that's not how it works in football. So, losing is not helping the Giants. It's not helping the Jets. What have they done in the draft since their last AFC title appearance back with Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez? Number 9 overall, number 6 overall, number 6 overall, number 3 overall, number 3 overall, number 2 overall, 4 overall, 10 overall. I think this was the pick we traded them, so they didn't earn it with their record, but basically, point is, what is any of this getting them? And a lot of these players are good. Like, we know how good Leonard Williams is. Jamal Adams was great as a Jet. Quentin Williams has been great as a Jet. Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson have both been mostly good, right? They're hitting on these picks, but where are their wins? Where is their success? I don't think they've made the playoffs in this period of time. They certainly haven't won a playoff game. So where is it? Where is the light at the end of this tanking tunnel? Or let's not call it tanking because they're not actually tanking. They're losing, but it's the same thing. It should produce the same result, right? Jacksonville Jaguars. Look what they've been doing in the draft for the last decade plus. Basically, 2012. Number 5 overall. I think they moved up a little bit to get the 5 overall pick, but they were still picking high. Number 2 overall, number 3 overall, number 3 overall, 5 overall, 4 overall. The one good year that they have after that 2017 AFC title game run, they picked 29th. Then they're right back to it. 7th overall, 9th overall, 1st overall, 1st overall. And what did it get them? It got them the one good season in 2018 with the playoff win. It got, or 2 playoff wins, actually, I think, that year. It got them 1 playoff win a couple years ago. And now they're in line to get a top 5 pick again. There ain't no Super Bowls. Not even really all that close. I guess they got close to the Super Bowl in 2017. Okay, great. But where's the fruits of the back-to-back number 1 overall picks? They get Trevor Lawrence and Travon Walker. Cha-ching, right? They're good. They're good to go. No. They don't even sniff the Super Bowl. And, I mean, Travon Walker maybe shouldn't have been the number 1 overall pick, and we can have a debate all day about Trevor Lawrence. But you can move beyond that. I mean, some of these picks are good. I'm not saying all these picks are bad. Like Justin Blackmon was a disaster. Luke Jokel was bad. Blake Bortles, I don't need to go any further there. But Jalen Ramsey was great. Leonard Fournette had moments. I'm not a fan, but he's good. Josh Allen has been very good in this league. Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback. Like, these picks are not all bad, but it's still not pushing them over the edge. You need a full roster if you're really going to go make something happen in this league. And picking number 1 overall is not going to get the job on its own, even if you hit. A bunch of top 5 picks and a bunch of top 10 picks are only going to take you so far. It's 1 player on a roster of 53. Let's look at the Raiders since they last made the Super Bowl. Robert Gallery, starting here. Number 2 overall, number 7 overall, number 1 overall, 4 overall, 7 overall, 8 overall, 5 overall, 4 overall, 4 overall, 7 overall a couple years ago. So where's their playoff wins? We can do this all day. There's a reason why some of these teams that have been bad for a while stay bad. They keep getting the top picks, but they stay bad. Because, number 1, sometimes they don't even hit on their high picks, but even if they do, it's not enough. You need to be able to hit all the way down. You need to be able to hit middle first round, late first round. You need to hit in the second and third. You need to hit on day 3. You need to nail your free agent signings. You need to bring in UDFAs. You need to keep the right players. You need to let the right players go. Getting the top pick, getting top picks over and over and over again, it's not really that big a part of it. Like, how about a good example? Like, look at the Chiefs ever since Andy Reid got there. First, Andy Reid gets there. He's got the number 1 overall pick, takes Eric Fisher. Since then, the Chiefs, half the time, they don't even have a first-round pick, right? When they do, it's not very high, 23rd, 18th. The one time they had a top 10 pick, they traded up to get it from, 27. So that was something that they had to actually pay a lot to get. So it wasn't the product of them losing. That was the product of them finding a player they really liked and deciding to spend big assets to get him. 32, 21, 30, 31, 28. Like, they're picking near the bottom of the first round consistently, but this team stays on top. If tanking worked, if losing to get better draft picks worked, wouldn't those teams at the bottom kind of float up to the top after a couple years, and the teams at the top float to the bottom or sink to the bottom because they're not getting the high picks anymore? It doesn't seem like it's happening. Like, how long did it take for the Patriots to stop winning? Patriots weren't getting top 5 picks every year. They found a way to keep winning. The Seahawks stayed a relevant team for a long time without getting super high picks. Ever since Schneider and Carroll first got here. So, whatever you think you're getting out of it, it's a fugazi, is what I'm trying to basically get at here. Even if you could get past the whole point of the Seahawks already have 8 wins, therefore tanking is a complete waste of even brain cells to think about. Even if you could get past the fact that this isn't even a very good draft class. We don't even know who the best player is. There's no consensus this year. There's no Caleb Williams. There's no Andrew Luck. There's no John Elway. There's not even a Peyton Manning. Even if you get past all that, you're still not getting the good stuff at the end of the rainbow. That pot of gold, it's not gold. So, root for your team to win. Root for your team to win. Hope for the best. It's better for your mental health. And don't be a loser, is basically really what I'm trying to get to at the bottom of this here. Right? Losers root for their team to lose. Don't be a loser. Because you're not getting anything out of it. You're not enlightened. That's what it feels like sometimes. That's really kind of the sense that I get from it. People think they're enlightened because they're smart enough to root for their team to lose because it's good in the long run. Yeah, if it was, some of these teams that are at the bottom consistently almost every year, they just float right up to the top. And these teams that win would quickly flush themselves back to the bottom. But the good organizations, they stay at the top. Like teams like the Steelers almost never pick in the top 10. Teams like the Packers almost never pick in the top 10. They stay where they are. They draft in the mid to late first round. They hit on their later picks. They find value. They sign good free agents. They don't waste money. They keep the players that they should keep and let the players go that they should let go. They do good business constantly. There's no LeBron James who's going to bail you out of bad decision making. Yeah, like I said, in basketball, you can be a terrible team that doesn't know what they're doing. You can build your roster in the worst way imaginable, and you can get bailed out by a ping pong ball that gives you LeBron James. Caleb Williams is as close a thing to LeBron James as football has seen in a while. Caleb Williams was LeBron James. And is Caleb Williams single-handedly lifting that Bears team to relevance? No. He hasn't even lifted them up to mediocrity. They're one of the worst teams in the league right now. They can't score. They can't win. They can't do anything. And it's not because Caleb forgot how to play football. It's not because Caleb is suddenly some scrub. It's because the Bears don't know how to do all the other things. They know how to use that number 1 overall pick. They know how to get that number 1 overall pick, be it because of their own incompetence or the incompetence of a team they do business with. But it's not good enough. All right. I'm going to see you guys later. Just something to think about. I spent a lot of time on this one because I'm hoping I don't have to talk about this again. It's just, I'm sorry, it's just kind of sad. I think it's sad to talk about tanking in almost any context because it doesn't work. But come on, guys. It's really sad that that some people in this fan base are so mentally soft. They watch one bad game against the Green Bay Packers, and their first thought is set everything on fire. All right? You will be much happier if you allow yourself to appreciate and enjoy the little victories on the way. So it's advice as much as anything. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. More videos coming later. And I don't want to hear about this stuff again. I got to be perfectly honest. I'm already tired of it. I don't want to hear anything more about tanking for this season.